On today's Community Wednesday, let's break down the FFAR. The FFAR was a monster after the integration, and I even mentioned how insanely OP it was during my original stat guide video. But now after the many nerfs, let's see how it performs, and how it compares to the rest of the meta. In the build, we'll be using the Suppressor, Raider Stock, Field Agent Grip, Stanag 50 round mag, and Serpent Wrap Grip. So let's get into the stats, starting with mobility. It's got an ADS time of 290 milliseconds, and that's not good. And honestly, this is as much we can do to help it. Its reload and reload add time is 3.27 seconds from empty and 2.45 if you leave one bullet in the mag. And with the mag cap of 50, this is alright. Its movement and sprint speeds are pretty good at 287 and 393 meters per minute, and its ADS strafe speed is 2.50 meters per second, which is pretty good. Its sprint out and tag sprint out times are 180 and 330 milliseconds, so it can definitely compete against some SMGs. And with the stability of 2T, you can actually stretch its range pretty far. Its bullet velocity though is 740.7 meters per second, which isn't the greatest, but it's alright for what we need to use it for. And lastly, its rate of fire is 15.1 rounds per second or 907 rounds per minute, which is just insane. So it gets a mobility score of 41. Its recoil is like a little lightning bolt. It's pretty easy to control, but there's no real surprises. It just feels pretty easy to use. And that's why we can use it up to 38 meters. I'm sure if you get used to it way more, you can use it way further. So it gets a recoil score of 31. For its damage, it has a drop-off point at 21 meters. In the first damage range, its headshot TTK is going to be pretty bad, but its upper torso, lower torso, and limb TTKs are going to be above average and require 10 shots to kill. And in the second damage range, all of its damage categories are going to be above average. Headshots will require still the same amount of shots to kill, but upper torso, lower torso, and limb will require one more. But what we can take from this is that no matter which range it's at, if you're hitting your shots, there's a good chance you'll be beating your enemies, especially since this thing has such a high fire rate and you're going to be making your enemies flinch. So it gets a damage score of 72.5. And when we add up all the categories, it gets a final score of 144.5. This is one of the higher scores that we've had in my stat guides. It's a pretty good and versatile weapon, which this is why it's a pretty great sniper support weapon. The worst thing about it is its ADS time. But if you can hip fire and aim down sights at the same time, there's a good chance you'll be winning anyways. This thing just has raw killing potential in terms of TTK. And the fact that its recoil is easy enough to use up to 38 meters, that's where most of your sniper support range is gonna be. You don't need to hit every single shot at that range, you just need to hit enough to make your enemies flinch. But due to its pretty good movement and sprint speeds, you can just push your targets as well. I do need to say that other weapons like the AS Val and the MP5s are gonna probably perform a lot better up close, and the OTS-9 is still a great up close choice. But except for the AS Val, none of the other weapons are pretty good past 20 meters. And even the AS Val is only good up until 30 meters. But I should really note that the AS Val and the other SMGs have much better ADS times. Sometimes the difference can be 100 milliseconds, and that is a huge advantage. The FFAR is a very balanced weapon, and my stat system favors these type of stats. Because it's getting such high scores in all the categories, it's gonna do really well. The FFAR gets a score of 144, and the EM2 only gets a score of 133.5. So does that make the FFAR better than the EM2? In some situations, yes. The FFAR will mop the floor with the EM2 when it comes to close range. But at long range, even though they have the same theoretical TTK, the EM2 is gonna win, just because it's much better at controlling its recoil. But a skilled player will be able to use the FFAR to their advantage. You just gotta play a very specific playstyle, and for me, I can't really do it right. So despite the extremely high score, I can't always recommend that you use one. Sure, try it out, see if you like it, but me, I'm gonna stick to using an SMG and a long-range weapon. And for a sniper support weapon, I'm still gonna be using my PPS-8. The mobility is just unmatched, and while its TTKs may not be as great, it's still gonna be doing really good. But that's the FFAR. I've used it recently, and so, what'd you think about it? And as always, if there's any weapon build or part of the game you want to break down, let me know. You may see it on the next Community Wednesday. If you enjoyed the video or if it's helped you in any way, let me know by leaving a like. If you got any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section down below. And if you want to make sure that you never miss another video, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching.